What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it is time to give you my 2024 SEC Men's Basketball Tournament predictions for the 2024 college basketball season. March Madness is approaching us, so I thought why not do a college basketball video for you guys here on the channel. Normally I don't do a lot of college basketball content, but I'm going to do it here anyway. We got the SEC Men's Basketball Tournament starting up on Wednesday and then continuing all the way until on that Sunday of Selection Sunday for March Madness and also for St. Patrick's Day. So we got a lot of games coming up here in the SEC Tournament. The SEC Tournament is, of course, one of my favorite tournaments that I look forward to every year in college basketball. So this is the only tournament I'm going to be predicting here. I'm not going to do any other conferences. Pretty much, the SEC is my favorite college basketball conference to watch when it comes to the college basketball season. So we're going to give you some predictions here, predict each and every single game, and I'm not going to feel very confident with these predictions because, like I said, I don't do a lot of college basketball content. I do a lot of college football content and everything. So let's get right into it here. Let's take a look at the bracket first off here. So this is the bracket for the SEC Tournament, and how the SEC Tournament works is that the top 4 teams do get a double bye in the first 2 rounds, and then the number 5 and number 6 seeds, they get a bye in the first round before they play in the second round. And we're going to see a couple of first round games to begin the SEC Tournament, and that will start again on Wednesday. So we'll start here looking at the matchups for the first round. We got Vanderbilt versus Arkansas in a 13 versus 12 seeded matchup, and then we got Missouri versus Georgia here, the number 14 versus the number 11 matchup. So double-digit seeds will go at it there in the first round, and then, of course, in the second round, we got Mississippi State versus LSU, 8 versus 9 there, and then we got South Carolina, again, the number 5 seed. They do get a bye here in the first round. They'll play the winner of either Vanderbilt or Arkansas in that first round game, and then we got Ole Miss versus Texas A&M, 2 teams that just played a couple days ago, and Texas A&M absolutely put a whooping on Ole Miss in that game, so we're kind of expecting a revenge factor for the Rebels. And then next up, we got Florida here, the number 6 seed. They do get a bye here in the first round, and they'll play the winner of either Missouri or Georgia. So that's a look at the first and second round games, and then you got the top 4 teams here. Tennessee is the official number 1 seed here in the SEC Tournament. You got Kentucky here at number 2, the number 2 seed, and then Alabama, of course, and then Auburn round up number 3 and number 4. So that is the bracket, and that is what the matchups look like here for the SEC Tournament. Let's get to the predictions now. We'll start with Vanderbilt versus Arkansas. 2 teams that have had some struggling seasons, but Vanderbilt is a team that's getting better and better each and every single game. They've been really competitive in the last 2 games of the regular season. Arkansas is another team that, has been very competitive as of late. They just lost a lot of close games this year. This is not the same Arkansas team that we saw from last year, but I do expect Arkansas to come out in this SEC Tournament as a double-digit spoiler, the spoiler team in the SEC Tournament. This is a close game here. I think every game is going to be pretty close in the SEC Tournament. I think this game will go back and forth, but I like Arkansas a little bit better than Vanderbilt here. I think it will be a very competitive game, but I think Arkansas will win it here against Vanderbilt, and I got Arkansas moving on to the second round where they will play South Carolina. And then next up, we got Missouri versus Georgia. How about Missouri this year? Definitely a very big surprise to me, not just because of the number 14 seed here. This is a team that was number 4 last year, one of the top 4 teams in the SEC Tournament last season, and they have not won an SEC game this season. That is just very, very unfortunate because the SEC has just been very wide open, and I thought we would see Missouri at least win 5 or more than games than that in the SEC, but that obviously did not happen. So Missouri definitely is a team that is going to be trying to make everybody surprise them a little bit, of course, in the SEC Tournament, but I think Georgia is clearly the better team here. I don't really know whole much about Georgia, and like I said, I don't really study college basketball that much, but I'm going to go with Georgia here. I think they're the better team than Missouri, and I think Missouri will be winless at the SEC. At the end of the season here in the regular season and also in the SEC Tournament. Like I said, I don't feel very confident with these predictions. I think an upset will happen somewhere, in this SEC Tournament. It's probably not going to happen in the first round, but we never know. So I got Georgia moving on here to the second round. Let's go to the second round games now. We got Mississippi State versus LSU, 8 versus 9 matchup here. this ought to be a pretty good one here. Mississippi State and LSU are two teams that have been, kind of like dark horses in the SEC this year. You look at Mississippi State, they're potentially an, SEC team that can definitely go to the NCAA tournament. You got LSU that's still fighting for a spot in the NCAA tournament, but I think Mississippi State here, this is a team that I've been really watching a lot this year, and they are really, really good. So I'm going to go with Mississippi State here in a close one over LSU. And like I said, I think every game is going to be pretty close in the SEC tournament, but I got Mississippi State here moving on where they'll play Tennessee in the quarterfinals. And then next up, we got Arkansas versus South Carolina here, 12 versus 5 seed. Upsets, likely to happen here. South Carolina is a team that I've been very surprised with this year. Did not expect them to be the number 5 seed here. They've really pulled off some big upsets this year. They have beaten both Kentucky and Tennessee. They beat Tennessee on the road back in in the early part of the SEC season. Then they beat Kentucky here at home as well. So South Carolina is a team that has good momentum going into the tournament. They're coming off a loss, though, to Tennessee on that Tuesday game where Tennessee clinched the regular season title. But I tell you what, upsets do happen in college basketball. We've seen that this year. I'm going to go with Arkansas here. I like Arkansas's chances going into the SEC tournament. Again, this is a team that's gotten better and better down the stretch, and Arkansas just lost a lot of close games this year. And with that being said, I think they win a close game here against South Carolina, and I think they move on to the quarterfinals here after a big upset over South Carolina. Next up, we got Ole Miss versus Texas A&M, number 10 versus number 7. This is a game that happened just a couple days ago. Texas A&M absolutely crushed Ole Miss at their home, arena and everything. Ole Miss is looking for revenge in this one. I think this is a really close game. I don't really expect a blowout here this time. I do think Ole Miss will be ready for Texas A&M this time, and with that being said, I think Ole Miss gets revenge here on Texas A&M. I know Ole Miss, or actually Texas A&M's been a pretty solid team this year, but I'm going to go with Ole Miss here to move on to the second round, or I should say the quarterfinals here against Kentucky. So I got Ole Miss upsetting Texas A&M there. That's the second upset here that I have for the SEC tournament. And then we got Georgia versus Florida here, the number 11 versus number 6 matchup. I do like Florida going into this SEC tournament. This has been a really big underdog of a team this year. They've looked good down the stretch in the last few games of the season where they picked up a huge win over Alabama, in their last, home game of the season, I believe. So they're coming off that big win. I think Florida is definitely the better team here compared to Georgia. I know sometimes, when teams do get a bye in the first round or second round, we've seen them struggle and come out really sloppy in the first few minutes, but I'm going to go with the Gators here. I think Florida's a pretty good team this year, so with that being said, I think Florida does move on here to the quarterfinals. All right, so we got Mississippi State versus Tennessee here in the quarterfinals. Tennessee has been a team this year that's been really big surprise to me. Not just because of the record, but just the way they finished the season. I know they didn't finish the season like they wanted to at their home place against Kentucky, but Tennessee, I think, is looking for revenge in this SEC tournament. They're kind of redeeming themselves after that Kentucky loss. They were probably looking ahead of Kentucky in that game, so I think Tennessee does get the win here over Mississippi State, but it's a close game, and like I said, I think it's going to be a close game in every single game of this SEC tournament. This is definitely the most wide-open conference tournament that I've ever seen here in SEC basketball history, and I think Tennessee is going to win this one. And again, I don't really have confidence that they're going to win it, but I think they're going to win this one in my prediction. And next up, we got Auburn versus Arkansas here, number 12 versus number 4 seeded matchup. I think Auburn has a lot of confidence going into this SEC tournament. We've seen them win it in the past, but I tell you what, upsets do happen all the time here in college basketball, but I tell you what, I think Arkansas, their Cinderella story comes down to an end here in the quarterfinals. And with that being said, I think Auburn wins this one in a close one over Arkansas, and I got Auburn moving on here to the semifinals. And like I said, I don't feel very confident with these predictions, but I'm going to go with Auburn here to pull off the win here in just the last possible second against Arkansas. And then next up, we got Ole Miss versus Kentucky here. Kentucky has been a very hot team as of late. They are on a winning streak going into the SEC tournament. And this is a Kentucky offense that is just really explosive with Antonio Reeves, Reed Shepard, and Rob Dillingham like scorers like this. And then you also got the shot blocking of Ugonna Onyenso, but it's going to come down to the defense for Kentucky. I think Kentucky does come out sloppy just for a few minutes in this game. End of the day, though, I think Kentucky's offense is just too good, and I think their defense will start to pick up in the second half. And I got Kentucky here moving on to the semifinals, so I'm going to go with the Wildcats here to get the win over Ole Miss. And then we got Florida versus Alabama. We've seen some pretty good matchups this year with Florida and Alabama in the regular season. Back in Tuscaloosa, it was Alabama coming out with the win in overtime, and then Florida got revenge on them on their home arena. So this will be a back-and-forth game here, but I tell you what, I like Florida here because of the way they've been playing these days, and I think the Gators do upset Alabama here. In the quarterfinals, Alabama hasn't been really playing that good as of late, so with that being said, I think Florida will defeat Alabama here in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament. And then we go to the semifinals here. First up, we got Tennessee versus Auburn, the number 1 versus number 4 seeded matchup. We got Tennessee and Auburn here. This ought to be a pretty good one. I think it's a really good back-and-forth game here. We got two great offensive scoring teams here. Tennessee, though, I think is much better than Auburn. I think Dalton Connect's going to have a big-time game in this one. We'll probably score like 40-something points in this one, and I think Tennessee wins it here. I'm going to go with Tennessee here to move on to the championship game after that win over Auburn in a close one. And then we got Kentucky versus Florida. Both of these teams are tied 1 apiece here in the regular season. We saw Kentucky beat Florida in their home arena, and then we saw Florida beat Kentucky in their home arena. So yeah, both of these teams do have one win each, in their home arena. Like, Florida beat Kentucky in their home arena, and then of course, or actually I should say, Florida beat Kentucky at Rupp Arena, and then Kentucky beat Florida in Gainesville. So this will be a back-and-forth game, but I do like Kentucky here to get the win. I think their offense is just too good, and they're probably just better by that time ever since, they lost to Florida at Rupp Arena. So I think Kentucky does win this one over Florida here in a close game in the semifinals. And then we got Tennessee versus Kentucky here in the SEC Championship. This will be the third time that both of these teams do meet here in the SEC title game. And just a couple days ago, we saw Kentucky beat Tennessee in the last game of the regular season. Kentucky was really red hot in the second half from three-point range. And I tell you what, Tennessee just had a really bad night of shooting that night. So I think Tennessee will be ready for Kentucky this time. And I think Tennessee definitely did overlook Kentucky last time. But I tell you what, the way Kentucky has been playing these days, I just like Kentucky a little bit more in this one. I think it's a close SEC championship game, and I think Kentucky does win it here at the end of the day. I think it comes down to their defense as well. They can make some good stops on the defensive end of the floor. I think Kentucky does win it, and if they don't, I think Tennessee wins it. But I think Kentucky does win it here just because of all the scores that they have on the offensive end of the floor. So I'm going to go with Kentucky here in a close one in the SEC championship. So that is my official predictions here for the SEC men's basketball tournament. Again, these will start on Wednesday and then continue on until about the Sunday of March the 17th. And then we'll have Selection Sunday here, coming up on that Sunday as well. So we will be making March Madness predictions next week. So I'll be, filling out my bracket and, giving you my predictions for March Madness. But these are my SEC men's basketball tournament predictions for 2024. Give me your thoughts on these predictions down in the comments below, and also give me your predictions down in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.